Gollum or something. I don't even know what
All
that is.
right, welcome
I'm a
to
Wookiee.
the NFL Insiders TV show, sponsored by Leone's Potty Mouth. We've got Davis Maddock from Fantasy Insiders, JJ Zachariason, aka Late Round QB from Number Fire, and Michael Leone, aka Drew Dinkmeyer's business partner.
Business is good. Business is good right now for
Business
Michael
is
J. Leone.
booming.
I can't see you, Leone, because of that huge shadow cast by Drew Dinkmeyer.
That's so good.
I'm okay with it.
Oh no, I think everybody's okay with it. I mean, really, if there's one person to represent the industry outside of myself, I think
I was thinking outside of me. I was thinking I would be a pretty good
Davis.
representative for the industry.
No way. If Davis won, it would have been the worst. Let him
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah,
Not with
God.
that haircut, dude.
Every rave being sponsored by DraftKings. So, anyways, Drew is just an excellent rep. You've already seen him. Cousin Sal mentioned him using in Bleacher Report. Matthew Berry's tweeting to him now. I mean, he has made it. He is big timing. And for that reason, we have Michael Leone on the show today. So,
I do all the previously made engagements.
Drew is way too good for this show now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Drew couldn't make it tonight, but we have Mike Leone.
We have his assistant,
We
Michael
have,
Leone.
we have Michael Lohner with us with today.
We have Leonum.
It is so good. Drew actually hired an assistant to be in FI chat, so that'll be fun. But yeah, anyways, that was a fun night. It was a fun sweat, and we can move on to next week. I did ask my mom. I tweeted out. I was like, you know that one of my good buddies won $1 million on Monday. And she's like, yeah, Drew Dinkleberry? And I said, yes, that's him. And then her next question was, how close have you come to winning $1 million? Like, you know, because she's seen Peter, she's seen Drew, and so she just thinks that, like, I'm next. And I let her know with the big old nah wave that wouldn't be happening anytime soon. So, all right. Davis, take it over from here, bruh.
Well, I mean, I don't really know where to begin. I guess we can start by talking about my heel turn on Fred Jackson. Like, Fred Jackson's a really good play this week against Oakland.
Start with tonight's game. Just tell everybody that they don't have to play anybody.
Not a single player. Enter Thursday games. He played 40% of the snaps last week. He's like he's a fine seasonal play.
I actually don't mind. I don't mind.
He's 3K on draft.
If you're entering tonight, I don't mind Jacksonville's defense.
I do.
I don't mind their defense at all this week.
But you're saying no to Tobimbo?
Tobimbo?
That's his name.
It's the greatest name in football.
That's not really his name. Please tell me it's not.
Tobimbo Gunnar Gerhardt.
Tobimbo.
Tobimbo.
Okay, well, if that's actually his name, he should have went way higher in seasonal drafts.
Zero running back savior.
Oh yeah, that was my byline. That was a good one.
I think you could play him in a Thursday lock.
He's really cheap.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but you.
I wouldn't either. But I'm serious with Jacksonville's defense. I would play Jacksonville's defense tonight, and I would play them pretty confidently.
Yeah, that's fine. I have both Toby Gerhardt and the Jaguars defense in the Stopa 10K final versus Andy Barons. So that's good. It's a great way to start my fantasy week off, cheering for players in this awful game.
Yeah, that's gonna be bad. But the Titans have given up 5 top 10 defensive performances in their last 6 weeks, and Charlie Whitehurst is not good at football.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jacksonville. Oh my God, I can't even talk. Jacksonville's defense is actually not as bad as people think it is because their team sucks. So people think their defense sucks, but it's really not bad.
It's a volume thing for Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So I think that's not really going to be the case this week because Tennessee's terrible offensively.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel with Gerhardt though. Like I know it's ugly, but this is like the one time all year the game script could be favorable.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. I would much rather just not. Just don't do it.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't think it's like someone you have to play, but it does open things up. Pricing's not like super soft this week, so to get a 3K running back who, I mean, I feel like he's gonna stumble into 10 points.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 touchdowns. I don't know.
I just hate the Thursday to Saturday slate in general so much.
Yeah, that's stupid.
It's just so dumb.
I'm not planning on doing any of that.
Yeah,
all.
I'm not either.
Dude, I really want to roll out like Sanchez JMat, but
well, like
it was such a good stack last week. So
yeah, but Washington, dude.
On DraftKings, you can just go highest priced players throughout and still be under the cap.
Yeah, screw the Thursday slate.
Yeah,
screw the Thursday slate. Let's start talking.
Stop putting your hand through your hair.
It gets in my face, fella. Quarterback. Are we doing the Drew Brees thing? Is this happening?
Yeah, I'm doing the Drew Brees thing. Bring it on.
I'm doing it too, but he's gonna hurt
totally
us.
Doing it.
He's throwing
doing it.
189 yards, an interception, and a touchdown.
It's not guaranteed. The difference between this game and the Carolina game is that Carolina's defense actually has proven to be talented in some way over the last 2 years, and Atlanta's has not even come close.
Yeah, I agree with JJ. I still think it was a good play versus Carolina, but
yeah.
I think they're starting to play better overall too. They're up to 19th Football Outsiders. They were like way down to start the year. I don't know what you have them at number fire, JJ, but
yeah,
Atlanta's god awful according to anybody.
Yeah,
pass defense, overall defense. You've got the highest team total, the only team total above 30 this week for the Saints. I'm definitely rolling Breeze, and if he sucks, so be it. But I'm not going to let a crappy game where he burned me in the past affect me.
What do you think about if DeMarco Murray is out, or if we get a report that he is limited about using luck? Because that basically takes away a large part of the Cowboys' ability to keep possession and have these big, gnarly, long drives. I know the line is really good, and Joseph Randle is fine, I guess, but he's not DeMarco Murray.
I just would rather play Breeze for cheaper. I have him like my model has him basically the top quarterback on the week, which scares me, and I've kind of manually downgraded him. But when you take into account price, I'm still rolling Drew Brees. I hope that we get Hilton out. He hasn't practiced each of these 2 days, and we can use Moncrief because that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be...
Did you know the guy who won FanDuel had Moncrief's goose egg?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he could have
had... If every player that helped you win, do you buy Moncrief zero?
Well, what he should have done is just used Min Kicker and Harry Douglas. That was the nuts, I think, in that day slate. Because Harry Douglas was $100 more expensive than Moncrief. Mm-hmm. So, I guess there's that.
So, I think quarterback-wise, I'm totally with Leone and you probably too, Davis, with Breeze. I think that he's just in the same tier as Rodgers and Luck, and he's cheaper. So that's why I'm going to roll him out. I'm not against you. Leone probably will hate this too. I'm not against on DraftKings going with Alex Smith this week at 50.
Why are we even having this conversation, dude?
I'm not.
I'm not. You are though. You just said it.
No. I'm saying I'm not against doing it. I'm totally for this conversation. Go ahead and grill me for it. I'll tell you why he's a good play.
If I'm not gonna play Breeze, I like Matthew Stafford, kind of in between those two. I mean, Alex Smith, I'm gonna give the nah wave. I mean, he just doesn't do it for me.
He doesn't do it for anyone, I don't think. But Pittsburgh's given up 2 touchdown passes in every game since Week 7. They've given up a top 10 quarterback to Ryan Fitzpatrick, Zach Mettenberger. Michael Vick was a top 10 quarterback against them. The minimum amount of points they've given up to quarterbacks over the last what is it, like 7 or 8 weeks?
It doesn't matter. It's Alex Smith.
It completely matters. It completely matters.
His absolute ceiling is like 22 points.
Right, and and he's priced accordingly. He's only 50. It's not like I'm saying play Alex Smith over Drew Brees. I'm saying that he provides a lot of cap relief in a week where there are high end options that you might want to plug into your lineup because the pricing is just tighter. Especially
the pricing is tighter. I mean I put him on our cheat sheets as an unhighlighted value play, so basically like a guy you could mix in but not a core guy. So I'm not totally against it. I probably won't do it just because I'd rather take a guy with a higher ceiling there. But I was fiddling around with some rosters, and like if you want to play like a Calvin Johnson or a Gronk, it is pretty difficult.
Yeah, but like honestly, like this is not an expectation of a ceiling with Alex Smith. It's just like that's why I think he's just more of a cash play than a tourney play, because I think he is a lock for like 15 points this week. I really do. And
how many times do you think he scored 15 points or less this season?
Probably like half.
A little bit over half.
Yeah, I know. I'm not.
Just here's the thing: if you're just gonna do that, just play Manziel.
No.
Because then you're just burning money.
I don't know.
Really, Davis, you're gonna go back to this again? What?
Oh, like I'm sorry that like from one start, like he's like a bust and is never gonna be good.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that it was one start. It was. I even asked you, and I said, was it as bad as the box score indicated? And you said worse. Those are your words.
Yeah, because his and I don't know. I'm sure everyone's like flaming me in chat right now. I don't even have it pulled up. But he was down 17-0 before he threw a pass beyond the line of scrimmage. So a lot of it was them putting him in a bad spot. I'm absolutely positive that in the game script, the opening 10, 15 plays that they scripted out, absolutely none of them involved any sort of play action, any sort of rollouts, anything like that. And Hawkins dropped a big first down on their second drive, and Jim Dre dropped a first down on their third drive.
These are the things that people go through and say when their guy sucks. And
Johnny Manziel is still going to be a good NFL quarterback. Like I'm not all that worried about it. But to just like write a guy off after like one horrific start, like that's what
I don't think it's
write him off, but it's just not worth playing. Like, his floor is really low.
Right.
I mean, I don't see how you can honestly say he doesn't have a low floor.
Right.
He has a super low floor, and so does Smith, because they can win with him throwing 15 passes.
Smith's floor is not low against Pittsburgh. It's not.
Smith's floor is higher than Manziel's floor.
Much higher.
I don't know why we're talking about Alex Smith on this show.
Because
I don't know why we're talking about Johnny Manziel.
If you want to go cheap at quarterback this week to be able to fit a guy like Gronk and Jordy and a high end running back, I think that on DraftKings, I wouldn't do it on like FanDuel. His price point's not significantly better, but on DraftKings, it's actually like pretty good. He's at 5,400, and doing that provides you that cap relief.
Yeah, I mean it's super cheap. Like I do see it. Okay. Kyle Orton too, baby. Roll some Kyle Orton and some tournaments.
Yeah, roll some Kyle Orton. So on that note, we're going to talk about a different position.
Do you guys like Stafford though? Can I get your thoughts on Stafford?
I'm afraid of Stafford for game script in that game because of Clausen now, and with that, I just think it's going to be more of a joy game. So it's going to be like I know that the team total is still decent, but I think that some of that.
You knew I was going to jump on the team total. He
Yeah, no, I knew that.
Zipped that in the butt.
I know, but I think Clausen going in is better for Joik obviously than it would be for Stafford.
Yeah. I still think though I'm having a hard time seeing him not go like 250 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm not playing Matt Stafford.
Okay.
He just, I don't know, that offense...
I know, you have guys that you just don't play no matter what and whatever.
Absolutely not true. That offense has just struggled to score points all year long. Like, their team total is less than New England, less than Green Bay. Philly doesn't...
Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. I'm not comparing him to those guys.
Their team total is also less than Romo, who I think would probably be a comparable option. Though I would not be super amped to play Romo either. I mean, Romo, I think, is probably an option if DeMarco Murray doesn't play because they'll have to throw a little bit more. But the volume with him is very rarely going to be there, just because they don't want him to throw that much.
Yeah, I still think Stafford will chuck it around for 3/4.
Yeah, I think that I feel about Stafford probably the same way that you feel about Alex Smith.
Yeah, man.
Right.
All right, we can move on now. I just wanted to get that.
All right. So are you guys thinking that this is a week to pay up for Le'Veon Bell in cash games? I'm probably not. I don't know. It's just there are other ways I want to spend this week, and I think there are some cheaper running backs who are really good options.
Yeah, I don't think you should. We've talked about it already. The cap's a little bit tighter this week on, both of the main sites. And if you look at Bell, he's amazing. He's the top fantasy running back, no doubt. But he's played 4 of the 5 defenses that have allowed the most fantasy points in PPR to running backs the last 4 weeks. I mean, you literally cannot get an easier schedule than he's had. So I don't see a lot of value in taking him at his peak salary in a matchup that's, not as crazy good. It's not a bad matchup, but it's not as crazy good as, it has been the past 4 weeks. And then you've got, I really like C.J. Anderson and Justin Forsett for cash games. I think both those guys are well underpriced for not only their role, but the matchups they have.
Forsett burnt me so good last week, and it wasn't even a lack of usage. He just wasn't any good.
He was hurt. He was battling injury.
Yeah, and he's not on the injury report this week. He said he's felt as good on a Wednesday as he has all season long. So, and the game, I mean, it's an easier matchup. The game script should be good with Casey Keenum playing for the Texans. So.
Casey Keenum, is that Case's brother? Burn! Ooh, got him!
That was the worst burn I've ever heard.
Wait, that was the worst burn you've ever heard?
Yeah.
I'm sure Craig has had some worse ones.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think C.J. Anderson obviously is going to be why won't they price him right?
I don't know. It's really messed up.
What's happening?
And he had kind of an off game last week, but he's at 28 carries a week. He's had at least 5 red zone ops in 4 straight weeks, which is absurd. There's no way it might not work out, but he has the best running back matchup, and he has probably some of the best volume that you can get for a running back on the best offense. If you're not playing him in cash, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I to be honest, this week I found myself using C.J. Anderson and then kind of taking it to the next tier at running back for my RB2, using either Fred Jackson. I like Lamar Miller this week. Those kind of plays, just basically to fit that elite QB in there, like fitting Breeze in there. Then you're able to go with a Gronk and a potential top-ish tier wideout.
Yeah, I think that I can agree with that. I like Lamar Miller, not significantly, but definitely a tier above Fred Jackson, I think. Just because Lamar Miller, just because I just, and I don't know if that's just a me thing, but he just seems more consistently involved. And I guess, Leone, you can probably speak to this. If they get a big lead, won't they just let Boobie Dixon come in there and do his thing? Or will they let Fred Jackson get 22 carries?
I mean, he's not going to get an absurd amount of carries, but you've seen he's had his 3 highest market shares. Well, he's had his 3 highest volume games the last 3 weeks, but he's not priced accordingly because he hasn't found the end zone. And now he's in a matchup where his touchdown probability is probably as good as it's going to get. He's had his 3 highest market share of carries the last 3 weeks. The one thing I've seen is that it's potential that Spiller comes back this week.
Well, he was activated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks iffy. I mean, it might be a situation where there's a few running backs I like where I don't even mess with it if that's the case. But Fred's your goal line back, as Adam said in the chat. Game script really doesn't impact him. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He grinds clock. He's used in all facets. He's not going to be like a Le'Veon Bell 100% market share guy, but he's going to be 65% market share on a team that's going to run the ball a ton if it goes according to the Vegas line.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, I had this in my start sit this week. The Raiders have allowed a top 10 running back performance in 11 of their 14 games this year, which is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's like we talked about, their defense, at least their run defense, isn't even that awful. It's just a volume thing. They allow I know they allow the most red zone rush attempts per game and top 5 in overall rush attempts per game just because they're always behind.
Yeah, they've faced one of the highest rushing volumes as a defense in the league, and they were second lowest in pass attempts. So I mean, it just makes sense because it's a very similar situation as Jacksonville. I would say that Jacksonville's defense is just better, but it's really like the Raiders' defense is not nearly as bad as what people would think. It's the offense that just struggles so much. The offense too does play better at home, so that could be a positive for using a guy like F-Jax if you think that like they're just going to use like Boobie Dixon down the stretch like in that game.
And Marone is kind of one of those old school coaches, and Boobie had an awful fumble that could have like cost them the game last week.
Yeah,
like running out the clock.
His name is Booby, though.
So like you're childish.
So like that's like a big thing in the analysis of Fred Jackson is that his backup is a man named Booby.
Well, now it's CJ.
Yep. Oh man, how tilting would it be if I finally was like, yeah, Fred Jackson cash games, let's do this. And then CJ Spiller comes in and gets all the work in the second half and has like 2 85-yard touchdown runs.
I mean, I would assume if Spiller comes back, he's gonna be really limited, but
my only fear with Spiller is that the Bills don't like him, so they're just gonna throw him out there just because they can, and like they're not worried about like his usage and like just dying.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Totally. Lamar Miller, I like on DraftKings. I don't like on FanDuel.
Yeah,
I feel like
DraftKings too.
I feel like DraftKings, he walks into value. I'm having a tough time between Lamar Miller and Trey Mason. Do you guys have any?
Yeah, I would lean Trey Mason there.
I would probably lean Miller, which just makes sense that Davis would lean with the more volatile play, and I would go with the.
Yeah, I think I'm with Davis. I think I like the upside.
I mean, just game log watching. Mason carries 13, 20, 14, 16, 29, 14, 19. Miller carries 16, 12, 13, 12, 15, 4, 11, 14, 18. So it's not even really comparable. Mason is more involved.
No, I mean, if you look by percentage basis, their workload is pretty similar. But yeah, I guess St. Louis is more prone to run the ball, which is I think why those carries are higher.
Yeah, I think that they're pretty similar. The thing with Mason. Rich Rebar was tweeting about this earlier today, is that he's just inconsistent from carry to carry.
I saw that, yeah.
But like the Giants' rush defense is terrible. They're 28th according to Number Fire. So yeah, I mean, like I can't fault you at all for. I'm gonna play both, especially in DraftKings. Their prices are really nice.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna mix it.
I want to throw out a guy to piss Davis off.
Yeah, let's do it.
You ready for this? Pierre Thomas.
Nah, wave.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Here.
You want the best? You guys want to know who like the cheat code player is this week that makes lineups work? It's Nick Toon.
Why Nick Toon? So Pierre Thomas has the same amount of targets as Marcus Colston does since Brandon Cooks went out. He's going to be involved in the passing game. I mean, you're obviously not you're not expecting him to get more than 5 carries. But he has the same amount of targets as Colston, and the Falcons, and obviously the Saints use their running backs in the passing game more than any other team in the league. The Falcons have given up the most 5+ reception games in the NFL this year, and they rank 4th in total receptions given up to running backs. I could totally see him being easily living up to his cost on DraftKings, and if he gets in the end zone, he's going to be super solid. I think he has a 10-point floor this week.
Okay. Well, I think that Nick Toon is like this week's Marcus Wilson, though. He ran more pass routes last week than Kenny Stills. He's like bigger and better, so he's more likely to be involved in the red zone. And I believe, he only ran 2 less pass routes than Jimmy Graham. So I think Nick Toon is like on FanDuel where he's 4,900. It's so hard to get those usable cheap wide receivers. Right. He makes a lot of stuff work. IMO.
His volume just still isn't there.
I see your point, Davis, and I think that's someone I'll probably be higher on as the week goes on because of some of the things you said. And sometimes those super cheap receivers, it's a volatile position. It's not bad to just take one.
Yep.
If he catches 4 for 40, he doesn't crush you. If he goes 6 for 70 with a touchdown, you're golden.
You're golden.
Yeah, so and he got tackled twice inside the 5. I'm pretty sure last week.
Yeah,
that was
he fumbled
part of the sweat show. So
I mean-
I could see that, and I mean it's the Falcons. It's the highest team total. If you're gonna punt with someone, I agree. That's the guy.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool with that as a punt. It's not a terrible play.
My problem with Pierre is, I think this could go back to a Mark Ingram game where we don't see a lot of Pierre Thomas.
I think this is definitely a Mark Ingram game, but
Yeah,
it's hard to pay for him.
Yeah, he's not a cash game option with the guys back because the floor is so low if game script doesn't go right or if you get stuffed at the goal line. But I really like him for tournaments. If you get a big lead for the Saints, he's going to run the ball still, 20 plus times and get goal line carries. I think his range of outcomes is huge. I like him this week, but it's a large range of outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, since Pierre Thomas has come back, Mark Ingram, the game before Pierre Thomas came back, saw 7 targets, and since he's seen 2, 2, 2, and 0. So like his involvement in the passing game is basically like since Cook's injury
gone. Yeah.
Since Cook's injury, they basically went back to how they usually play, which is rotating their running backs. Not as much. I mean, more in the passing game, with Pierre Thomas being the primary receiving back, and he's taking some of Cooks's looks, and then Colston actually. Like, if you look at it, so if you look at his last 4 weeks' production, he's been in double digit, like between 10 and 20 points every week. But it's all touchdown based. It's not like his volume hasn't really changed that much. Like, I think the biggest beneficiary of the Brandon Cooks injury so far has been Pierre Thomas, and it actually connects pretty directly to when Cooks went out.
I know Davis hates Kenny Stills, but I'm still not off the Kenny Stills train either. I know his snap percentage was ugly like 3 weeks ago, but the past couple weeks, I think it was like 72% and then 62%. He leads the entire NFL in yards per target. I'm completely fine with him. Maybe not on DraftKings, where it's full PPR and the price is a little bit more aggressive, but on FanDuel, where he's the same as Colston, still like 6,100.
Yeah.
All right, let me throw out a pairing to you, like Nick Toon, Dez Bryant, or Kenny Stills, and someone in that mid-tier range, like I don't know, DeAndre Hopkins, or let's just say
Roddy White. I'll take Stills and Roddy White.
Yeah, I would too. I actually made a cash lineup with them.
Even if Julio comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he might be.
That could be better actually if Julio comes back.
If Julio's back
against New Orleans.
So if Julio comes back, Ryan will be better, but Roddy White will just suck no matter what.
I don't know how this somehow became a thing. Like, it's not made up that Julio Jones is their best player and that before the start of that game.
How do you segue into these tirades? Whatever, Davis.
No, because you guys just hate on me for these ideas that are simply based in objective measures of what happens on a football field. Like, it's not my fault. That's what the data says. I didn't make these things up.
No, but you also need to take into consideration context, which you did not do last week.
That's fine. I had Matt Ryan on a couple teams. I had Harry Douglas.
Didn't you say he was unplayable?
Yeah, and then Drew and I talked about it for 5 hours, and I finally just cried uncle.
Yeah, and then Drew won $1 million.
And then Drew won $1 million.
On Harry Douglas.
Yeah.
I think Roddy White's a good play either way, and I would rather have those two than Toon and Dez Bryant.
Yeah, I would too.
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know.
Davis, you love your expensive wide receivers.
Yes.
You and I are different mindsets. I don't pay up for a wide receiver that often.
Yeah, I like having those 35-point games from Dez and Odell Beckham in my lineup rather than getting
Yeah, but you never count the times that you get 8 from a 9K receiver. You just pretend those don't happen.
No, I mean I definitely do. I just I can't. It's just when you apply the context of the matchup because you're choosing the guys with the best matchup, it just doesn't happen very often when you get them in the right game script and everything. You're not taking Calvin Johnson or Dez Bryant or Jordy Nelson when they're going to be up against when they have a lower team total than normal and they're up against a good cornerback. I can't. Can you think of a big wide receiver who is in a great spot this? I guess
Bryant's going up against Vontae Davis, so you are taking him against a corner that's good.
Vontae doesn't shadow and Dez moves, But that's not even decide. I just chose Dez Bryant arbitrarily because that was the name I clicked. There's a bunch of guys in that price range who would be usable. I guess the one that I can remember the most having in my lineup was the Antonio Brown week against Tampa Bay when he had like 5 for 63 or whatever. Was like
the Jets game when he like.
Oh, I was not. I didn't play.
That was the Brown game where he like had everything going for him. I mean, like it can happen, but it can happen for top tier running backs too. I mean, like I get what you're saying, Davis. I just think in this case, like you have two mid tier guys that are in really favorable situations this week. Like if they were just like whatever plays, then sure. Like I understand the logic, but I think that both a guy like Stills and a guy like Roddy could easily end up as top 20 wideouts this week pretty easily. And as a result, you can confidently throw them into cash games rather than Dez.
I guess I'm just not seeing what everyone else sees with Stills because, like, yeah, he had that one game where what's his name, William Gay.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah, so he like fell down and Stills caught that 70-yard touchdown. These are Stills' other games this year: 5 for 67, 3 for 23, 8 for 98, 4 for 32 and a touchdown, 3 for 26, 5 for 72.
Why are you going back to when Cooks was playing? That's completely irrelevant.
When did Cooks? When did
the
Cooks
last four was when
4 weeks.
when Cook went out.
Yeah, so the last bust week.
It's 5 for 67 is, I guess, 5 for 67 for what was he 6,100 last week? You probably weren't super excited about that.
No, but you weren't like super disappointed, and he was 6,100.
Okay, this is what I'm saying to you.
And
I don't see a huge differentiation between Stills and Tune.
There's definitely more upside with Stills. He leads the NFL in yards per target. I mean,
yeah, because
that's a fact. Hashtag facts.
Here's the thing, but for cash games, you're looking for like consistently repeatable performances, and the type of plays that Stills is involved in low percentage plays by the nature of the role he plays in that offense.
He's also been fairly consistent since Cooks has gone out with decent volume. The only bad volume game was against Carolina when that whole entire offense was a dumpster fire. And if you look, he's only scored 1 touchdown over the last 4 games, which I'm not saying regression's going to hit, but at the same time, like he's seeing enough volume in a fairly efficient offense and a fairly efficient passing game to the point where like we can't even assume that like what he's done is to be like there is still a ceiling with Kenny Stills that is kind of being ignored. Like
I'm not saying he's a bad play. Like I think he's a fine play, but I'm definitely not as high on him as everyone else seems to be. Just because, like if Gay doesn't fall down on that play, he's been.
But he also got overthrown on an easy 70-yard touchdown in the same game. As you can use your play that went in his favor,
and it's football.
But there's another player that would have put him at over 30 fantasy points for a 6K guy. How many 6K guys are scoring 30 fantasy points?
I'm not saying he doesn't have that upside.
You can't just pick the plays that went for him.
Oh, yes I can, Michael. Yes I can. But this is all that I'm saying. I think that Stills has inherent risk in the role that he plays in that offense because he relies on low percentage plays, and I
don't think anyone here said it was a slam dunk. I just said I am all about him on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think it's a secondary value play.
I'm just arguing that Nick Tune, for including dollars, is like a comparable play.
Cool. All right. We'll just agree to disagree.
I hate you guys. You guys are the worst humans.
Let's talk about tight ends. No, let's still stay on receivers because
we got to do wide receivers.
If you do use Tune, I feel like you should be playing Calvin though. Like if you're going to use Tune, get Calvin Johnson in your lineup.
Yeah.
That was my analysis. I don't know if you guys are waiting for it.
That's some pretty good analysis. Like I think playing
it's real deep. But
like Calvin Johnson.
I think Chicago allows the most red zone pass attempts per game. Their secondary's awful. I don't think last time they met that it was an anomaly that he destroyed them. There's more risk in this one because of game script reasons and just from being on the road and not at home in a dome. But I think he's the top receiver.
Yeah, he is. I think a lot of when I'm going a top tier receiver this week, I think a lot of my exposure, at least on DraftKings, is going to go Jordy's way though, just because of his price, because he's $1,000 cheaper.
Yeah, I wrote in my write-ups that I had Calvin 1, Demarius 2, Jordy 3, but I'm pretty much not playing Demarius because he's priced with Calvin, and Jordy I think is fine to target on a bounce back week if you're getting $1,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
Has anyone figured out who killed Peyton Manning? Like, is it JJ just like sending him like poison? Like what has happened?
Do you realize
Peyton
how
Manning?
amazing it is that Manning, Breeze, and Rodgers all put up crap playoff numbers, like fantasy playoff numbers?
Oh yeah, you're loving it.
Unbelievable.
But like I totally agree with your analysis, Michael, that like he's not a great play this week because there are guys who are going to see more guaranteed volume.
That's seriously, like, this game, like, matchup wise too, sets up perfectly for CJ Anderson, like we were talking about earlier. Like, there's just no reason to like bank on the Broncos passing game, not only because of what they've been doing, but because Cincinnati's so bad at stopping the run, and they've played the pass relatively well this year.
With all that said, Peyton Demarius in a tournament would be sweet because it's going to be. I feel like there should be X percentage ownership floor on that stack every single week.
Yeah.
Regardless.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
But yeah, we're on the same page in cash games. The other guy I'm heavily targeting in cash games is Mike Evans.
Yes.
I just think he's a baller. They're going to have to throw a ton. And the price point, I feel like he's the guy who's most likely to be the top receiver on the week who's not in top tier pricing. I mean, he's reasonable.
My fear with that game is kind of what, or not. It's not. It's kind of like the Bears Lions game, but like with Gerald McCoy out, like I think the time of possessions. Like I never bank on game script. Like it's just not smart to do. But there is that fear that with McCoy out for Tampa Bay, that it's the Packers offense is just going to be on the field so much. Josh McCown's been playing really, really poorly. Vincent Jackson also has 27 targets the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, they're both, I think since the bye week, they both have like 74 targets, like exactly split. It's just target on. I think Evans, it's just an amazing combination of like vertical ability and red zone ability.
Yeah, he's sick. He's always in play just because he's ridiculous.
Yeah, so he's.
I mean, it's the awesome thing with him is that even if he has a bad game, there's like always like a 75% probability of him scoring a touchdown.
Like last week.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You could just value out, 2 for 15 with 2 touchdowns. Like, yeah. I mean.
No, I'm cool. I'm cool with it.
Okay, just real quick off-topic question before we go to tight ends. Has Mike Evans scored more touchdowns this season than Tavon Austin ever will receiving?
Okay, shut up. Let's talk about
he played a bunch. Tavon Austin played a bunch of snaps last week, and Dan, Mr. Tuttle, thinks that he's a good minimum salary play on DraftKings.
I'd rather go with like Albert Wilson.
Yeah. I think if JJ, if your idea on Alex Smith and like the floor and everything proves to be correct, that means that Albert Wilson's going to have like a 5 for 65 day. Yeah, Alex Smith's still not going to throw the ball down the field.
I really like. It shouldn't surprise anyone if this is the game that a wide receiver finally gets a touchdown. Like that's how bad Steelers corners are. Like, well, we haven't gotten to tight ends yet, but I think Wilson's a fine play. He's 13 targets the last 2 games. I would say Bo is the same kind of player. He just doesn't have at this point. It doesn't seem like he has the same fun ceiling that a guy like Wilson would.
He's Dwayne Bowe, and his career is just depressing.
Yes, I can't believe he had a 15 touchdown season. That's just
owned him in every league.
That's unbelievable. It's unreal.
Yeah. Okay, let's do tight end real quick. I'll just do my quick Gronkowski. His key went down on DraftKings. He's 7,800 on FanDuel. No other tight end puts an approximation on his production at all. Yeah. So there's my thing. Now JJ, you talk about I don't know whose tight end do you like this week?
No, I think
tight end.
No, Gronk is going to be in a ton of my lineups. I think Kelsey's still a pretty good play this week. So I agree. If you're gonna go cheaper, I think it's basically Gronk and Kelsey.
Yeah, I think it's pretty binary as well, Gronk or Kelsey, and I'm leaning more Kelsey route just because of roster construction. It's early in the week though; it's always so hard. By the time you actually build your lineups with injury info and some other values pop up, but right now I'm leaning towards Kelsey.
Yeah. Just wait till either Julio or because I like Harry Douglas could be in because he's still fairly cheap. So like,
Didn't Harry Douglas not practice yesterday because he got
he's
banged
questionable. He's questionable too. I mean, like Moncrief is probably the one guy that you really are hoping that can.
Ooh, Moncrief.
up?
Yeah,
Moncrief would open up a lot.
Yeah.
I would use him everywhere if Hilton's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, although
some tournaments regardless.
do they here's the question though, and I actually don't know because whatever, Indianapolis is boring, but would they play the same role? Like, would Moncrief slot in at the X?
I don't think it matters. Like,
yeah, I sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, you just look at Hilton's volume being gone, and Moncrief is going to see volume, and Moncrief is a freak, and he would have, like, the reason we don't play Moncrief, well, the reason that we're not playing Moncrief is because he's not getting opportunity, so he doesn't have any sort of floor, and now he would have some sort of floor, so you're going to play him because he's priced really reasonably. I actually think, like, if you're going to enter a Thursday game, it could be fun to, like, because he's not, like, a terrible tourney option every week regardless, in a big field tournament. So I think throwing him in a Thursday tourney is a pretty smart idea in case Hilton doesn't go.
Yeah, I think so.
Where you're locked.
Yeah, I think so too. And just like JJ said, I don't know exactly, how they're going to use him if Hilton's out, but you're going to have a limited Reggie Wayne who's been ineffective. You're going to have an ineffective Akeem Nicks. Like, Luck's going to have to throw to someone who's going to make some plays, and it's going to be Moncrief.
Yeah. I can agree with that. And that might be a nice way to get some exposure to the Indianapolis passing attack without playing Luck.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, here's a question. We didn't go over this first. Would either one of you consider Dan Herron in play this week?
I was just gonna ask that. I don't mind him, but the thing is that I would rather play Lamar Miller at his price point on DraftKings, and I think that they're pretty similar to on FanDuel, if I'm not mistaken. So I would just rather,
they're the exact same tag.
Yeah, I would just rather go Lamar Miller this week, I think, over Herron.
What about go ahead, Mike.
I'm just not really feeling Herron. I don't think it's like a bad play, but there's just too much opportunity cost. I think you've got high upside guys in the same price range. It's not even worth it.
Here's something depressing about daily fantasy football. I'm sad that Matt Asiata's price tag is over 4K because I would actually play him if he wasn't. No, Matt Asiata.
They're going to be behind, and he's just going to catch a bunch of passes.
That's what he does. That's what he does. He is the worst player ever. And he tilted me to no end when Jerick McKinnon was alive.
Wasn't he RB3 last week?
Probably.
I think
he does stuff like that. He just catches a bunch of passes and he
falls into the end zone, trips into an end zone.
Legitimately just trips or like bowling balls his way.
Last week was the first time he scored without scoring 3 times in a game, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't, and just for anyone listening, I don't like Matt Asiata or it's always a price thing because for a long time on DraftKings he was $3,800 for a running back getting all these catches. He's not an option. I'm just we didn't need to discuss this. I just was saying.
What about? Are we just kind of freestyling now?
Yes.
Yeah, freestyle.
What about Golden Tate this week? It's on DraftKings especially.
I like him as a hedge tourney play, but I don't know if I'm just biased because I like Calvin so much that it's hard for me to say that Tate's a good play too. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it's tough to. I mean, he's obviously not the same wideout as he was when Calvin was out.
I mean, some wide receiver is getting a 75-yard touchdown catch against a Bears team that's absolutely quit, but my money would be on Calvin getting it.
Really though, Golden Tate's only had one really bad game this season, and that was against Arizona.
Mm-hmm. He's a good player. I don't have a problem with it, but he seems overpriced. He like Drew and Mike always say, he'd be a secondary value play.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because I think he's just reasonably priced. He's not a value play.
Secondary value play is the sophisticated DFS way of saying he's a GPP play.
No, I don't think so. That means I would use him in a cash game. If it fit as a last piece, and different people differentiate their lineups in different ways. But sometimes secondary value plays do make sweet GPP plays because they're not super sexy guys. So, but they're not core value, so they go under owned, but they're actually in good spots.
Yeah. One One of my favorite guys this week that we didn't talk about, actually. I really like Brendan LaFell against the Jets. With Edelman potentially not. Edelman got a concussion this week out of nowhere, which is probably
He was being too scrappy. He was just out scrapping around. He got to practice too early and left too late, and he got a concussion from it.
No, I like LaFell's price point, especially on DraftKings this week. He's 5,300. I'll be rolling him out.
Yeah.
The Jets secondary is terrible.
It is. It's so bad. Which is another reason to just suck it up and play Gronkowski.
They're dead last in DVOA against tight ends too.
Yeah, it's just like in last week against Miami, they were number 1 DVOA against tight ends, and he had that game.
And the Patriots are a team because they're smart, unlike a ton of other teams. They're not like this, hey, we're going to impose our will on you. They'll do what's going to work. And if you're playing the Jets and you're smart, you're going to throw and not run. And they'll game plan to throw 90% of the time.
Yeah, that's why we always see Vereen with higher snap counts against good rush defenses. It happens every single time.
He's a secondary value play.
Yeah, no, I would never. I'm not touching that running back situation. Especially after last week when LeGarrette Blount, thank God he scored that touchdown because I was ready for him to carry the ball 20 times, and then Jonas Gray's going to be a thing again.
Well, that's Patriots running backs are like
dude, they had 2 straight games of consistency.
Wow.
2 straight.
2 games.
I said that was sarcastic. I'm sorry.
Well,
I didn't come across. You guys attacked me.
That's what happens when you're a boring person. Then you get sarcastic and no one expects it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about defenses so we can talk about the Bills.
Yeah. Well, it's the Lions. If you play anyone but the Lions defense on DraftKings, I don't know. You'd have to lay out a very convincing case to convince me
I've
of
got them
someone
third on the week. But
you mean overall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like 3,100 against
right,
Jimmy
but
Clausen,
it's not that crazy to end up in a spot where you've got some extra money. I'll probably have them on DraftKings.
Who do you have? Who do you have ahead of?
I've got Seattle 1 and the Bills 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen a team total lower than what Arizona has this week.
What is it? I haven't even seen it.
It was 13.5 when I went to write.
How hilarious is it that Colin Kaepernick was judged to be 0.5 points better than Ryan Lindley against the Seahawks? That's how far.
Actually,
Colin
no.
Kaepernick
What's better about it is that they have Kerwin Williams in the backfield as well, which is just out of control. Although you could probably make the argument that Kerwin Williams is better than Frank Gore.
Yeah, I think
at this point in his career,
the Bears aren't starting Cutler. That's just so stupid.
There is this I have this fear. It's super irrational though that Trestman's going to totally whisper Clausen this week.
Dude, I think that is somewhat of a concern. I don't want to say concern, but that's part of the reason why I have them third, and I'm not going all gung ho and putting them first. They're home. It's Trestman. All the defenses I like are on the road, though, so I guess I shouldn't be using that too much.
Yeah, but we saw what he did with McCown last year. McCown's better than Clausen. I give you that. But the other thing too, remember Clausen?
McCown's college stats. So I dug up a Fails article today. McCown's college adjusted yards per attempt was 5.2. He was hot trash, dude. So Clausen could totally have 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 receptions.
Yeah, and he has the weapons to do it. Remember too, he played really well in the preseason, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, well.
I'm not putting stock into that. I'm saying though that he wasn't just this flaming piece of trash.
Yeah, I think too. If you could get Seattle in, I think they could have one of their crazy 30+ point fantasy games. Yeah. Especially if they can jump out to a lead and force Arizona to throw. They have no Ellington's out. They can't do anything. It's going to be a disaster. And the Seattle defense has been playing, close to what they were last year recently.
Yeah. Ryan Lindley breaks the number fire database with how bad he is. He's actually there's been 690 quarterbacks that have had 100+ drop back seasons since the year 2000, and Ryan Lindley's season in 2012 was the 8th worst.
Well, Johnny Manziel over the next 2 games will he be worse than Ryan Lindley?
Dude, his game graded out as the worst of the season of any starting quarterback this year.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. He was my cover boy, so
Yeah.
big ups to me.
And the Bills defense, because I want to talk about the Bills because they're somehow still mathematically alive for the playoffs. 14%.
14%.
Beat Green Bay, man.
They could feast, though. I mean, we talk about wanting to take defenses against teams they're going to have to throw. Oakland has one of the highest percentage of pass plays because they're always behind. And the thing with the Bills is their secondary is starting to play really well. Like, we picked on them a little bit in the beginning of the year. We knew they had a good front seven, but the secondary was getting beat up. Like, Stephon Gilmore has gone from, like, being someone we target to someone we avoid, and I just want to talk about the Bills.
Do you know who has the best wide receiver performance against the Bills since Week 6? Dwayne Bowe. That's how ridiculously good they've been. It's insane. Oh, by the way, another tight end value that I like this week is Dwayne Allen, especially if T.Y. Hilton's out. Against Dallas. He's 3,800 on DraftKings. I would rather just play Kelsey and just feel better about the floor, but Dwayne Allen's actually been pretty sick when he plays this year. And he's obviously a huge touchdown threat.
Yeah.
So glad we don't have to talk about Kobe Fleener anymore.
Yeah, that is nice.
Well, remember that time you told me I was stupid and then he dominated Gronkowski?
Oh, yeah. Let's just...
Like whenever you told me I was stupid and Jordan Reed dominated Gronkowski?
No, but Gronk finishes one every week.
No,
so
Jared Cook.
My brain's having a tough time. Like, if Gronk finishes number one every week, but guys outscore him, I'm having a tough time.
Gronk is bettable every single week in a way that no other player in fantasy is. That's
not true.
Kind of choose someone from the field though once in a while and be right.
Also
like Jordan Reed and Kobe Fleener.
Also, that's
who'd you guys gamble on last week? Delaney Walker?
I'm saying
Larry Donnell. Come on.
I played Gronk last week. What I'm saying though is that's not the only reason that's true is if it's in comparison to his position. It's not true from a bank.
Who else is non-quarterback? Who else is more bettable than
Gronkowski?
Gronkowski? The two running backs for sure, DeMarco and Le'Veon.
I would throw a guy like Forte in there too.
Dude, Gronk's game log I don't think is as amazing as you think it is.
It's not.
And I love Gronkowski,
it's just crazy consistent.
Oh, by the way, last week I had Greg Olsen Davis, and he was the best tight end in fantasy.
Did he score last week?
No, but he was still the best tight end in fantasy.
He's also he's the most targeted tight end in fantasy. I like him for targets. Every week, Olsen could be the number one tight end,
I believe that since week 5, Gronkowski has outscored Antonio Brown. I would need to pull that up.
I don't think that's true.
Which is when Gronkowski started.
But Davis, to be fair, if Antonio Brown had some of these bettable performances that Gronkowski put forth, you would be ripping people. Oh, I'm glad you got 12 points out of your 9K receiver.
Well, Antonio Brown is always $900 to $1,200 more expensive than Gronkowski, though.
I'm just saying, you would be ripping people if he had.
There's nothing to rip about Antonio Brown. He's very good. He gets a lot of targets. He's good at football.
I just think that I don't know. Like Leone said, I think that a lot of Gronk's performances are overstated in general in fantasy football.
It's just relative to his position.
That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. Whenever
you're right.
Whenever you pay
this conversation started, we're disputing what you just said.
Right.
Yeah, and I was wrong.
I love you.
Marquez Wilson, I think, is a nice tournament play again.
I agree.
He played every single snap. They're going to have to throw, and he's actually good at football. So I think people might avoid him just because the catches were low last week and the matchup sucks and Clausen. People might go, nah. But given the price, especially on DraftKings, 3,600.
Yeah, I said that on the show last night, and Dan bet me that Tavon Austin is going to outscore him and that the loser has to put 2 drops of Tabasco in their eye. So I did not agree.
Serious?
I did not agree. I don't know. Dan thought Dante Moncrief was an excellent cash play last week. So Dan will occasionally have these hot takes that just don't work out at all. Just like I do, obviously. Manziel was my cover boy. I'm an idiot. I don't know anything.
Well, everyone's an idiot. It just happens.
Sweet. Any other guys?
No, I have not dug in super deep this week because I've taken 3 finals.
End of show disclaimer. I don't know what I was talking about for the past hour.
Well, normally by this point I've written up a good chunk of my column, and I have not started it yet because I took 2 finals today.
How'd they go? What subjects?
Biological anthropology and Old English.
Very similar subjects. I bet your studies overlapped.
Yeah, it was a lot of consistency in my day.
I also, as a tourney play, just because that's what you can say whenever you're going to say a random guy. I like Charles Sims this week.
That's like a super JJ play.
You have fun with that, JJ.
No, I'm serious. That game script is 100%. Like the Bucks are going to be down 21-0 at the end of the quarter.
The reason that
he could see 7 to 10 targets this week.
Leone, you should like Charles Sims too because he's Fred Jackson. He was 25 years old right now, like as a rookie. So like he's gonna be 32 before we know it. Like he's gonna be 29 when his rookie contract expires.
It's awesome.
Fred Jackson is amazing, and if the Bills make the playoffs, that would be so good for Fred.
Charles Sims, by the way.
Come on, you gotta give Fred some credit. Oldest running back in the league, and he's still doing his thing. You know,
he's super neat, dude. He's a neat guy.
Fred Jackson's awesome, dude.
I mean, once players are over 26, they're dead to me. But like, he's like still kind of alive to me a little bit.
Yeah,
dude, he's that guy that like it's totally narrative street, but that like fans just latch on. They just love him just because he's like.
Yeah.
So
because he's everyone's dad.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I was all about him. He's my poster boy.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, I was so about him this year. His value in fantasy was just ridiculously low.
I know. I made the mistake where I kept passing on him in drafts. I'm like, well, I can get him at this point in a bunch of other drafts, and then I just ended up with him in like one draft because I kept doing that.
Yeah, I have a ton of Fred Jackson. Awesome.
That's like the worst brag ever.
No,
like, oh yeah, dude.
There's so much Fred.
Have so much of this mid-range RB2 in my MFL 10s.
Dude, he is so underrated. It is out of control in fantasy football. And like even next year, I mean, he's gonna be like 46. I'm gonna draft him.
I know you are. I think my favorite thing is like when I'm gonna like I will be an advocate for Odell Beckham next year because like Odell Beckham won't be a first round draft pick, but like he totally should go like number 5 overall next year.
He might be a first? Oh, actually, there's gonna be like the Victor Cruz thing, and people are gonna be turned off.
Yeah, well, no, and people are gonna take people are gonna make C.J. Anderson a first round draft pick next year, which is like it's like super hilarious because Monty Ball shouldn't have been a first round draft. Like it's just I don't know. People are drunk.
Yeah, Antonio Brown's gonna be top 5 pretty easily.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
Rondo's gone, huh?
Yeah, Rondo, dude. Is it official? I just saw Mark Stein tweet that.
Seems like it is.
Hashtag NBA.
Yeah.
JJ needs 6 NBA players. Dude, you gotta play some NBA DFS. It's Davis and I
know everyone at Number Fire. We have a program that we use to chat and stuff, and like it's just every night they're just going back and forth for like an hour.
Davis and I tilt G-Chat, and
like all night.
If anybody else read it, it would be the most obnoxious thing in the world, but it just goes on and on. Trevor Ariza really got my wrath last night.
We needed a Threeza, and we did not get a Threeza.
Davis has turned into Steve Fink.
Oh yeah, Fink's turned me into Fink.
Yeah.
I think it's contagious. Davis literally in the first quarter will start like just tilting so hard, and it's like almost to the point where it's unbearable. And he's wrong about, I would say, 75 to 80% of the tilts.
It's called a reverse jinx, David.
No, that's
it's not.
the cop-out that you and Fink both use. When Fink complained about Kemba, and literally 1 minute later he had 10 fantasy points.
Yeah. You know
and then he goes, I was just reverse jinxing him.
You know what it's called? It's called being a rookie. That's what it's called.
No, what it's called is I went on just like a stupid cold streak and lost like $4,500 over 2 weeks, and like I need to eat, so that was not super fun for me.
Do you know why you lost?
I'm not super great at daily fantasy.
because I'm no longer your sugar daddy.
No, that is true. Like being out on my own, like with no backer, like sucked. But I'm good now. I've won the last couple nights, and I'm almost back to even.
Oh, wow. Well, on that humble brag, we will end the show. Special thanks to Davis Maddox Hair and his owner for being on the show today. Also, JJ Zacharyson. JJ's number fire, I'm guessing, got a little spike in traffic because I saw Schefter tweet out something.
Yeah, Shefty's all over us right now with our odds.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
man.
that's always nice.
Yeah.
And Leone, you're a Bills fan. There's not really much to say there. Bless your heart. God
I'm
love
like
you.
a Bills fan. You know, it's like this Drew winning is kind of like a microcosm. You know, that's kind of like going to be the highlight of my DFS career.
Yeah, and it's your friend doing it, right? Like, we all have to confront, like, our own mortality now in a way that, like, we'll literally never, ever be as profitable at daily fantasy as Drew. Like Drew is already, like, the best player in the world, but, like, now it's just, it's unreal.
I saw.
I keep getting texts from people that are like, "Oh, that was awesome! I hope you had a piece of that." And I'm like, "God damn it!"
Yeah, that's what my sister said. She goes, "So, is he gonna give you some of that?"
Yeah, I keep.
No.
Although
I know you guys are partners, so you must have had a piece of that.
I will say this. Drew and I spent 6 months training for NFL all offseason, and it took him 14 weeks of the NFL season to forget everything that we learned. And then once he finally flushed my lessons all the way out of his system, he won $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, once he got it out so that he could play Odell Beckham. How funny was that?
Dude, did you see the My Fantasy League tweet to Drew about
Yes.
NFL 10s? That was
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I can't remember what the exact phrasing was, but it was something like...
It was hope this covers all your losses from
That is so awesome.
I told Drew about it yesterday, and he didn't believe me, so I had to like go find the tweet and show it to him.
Did you guys see the Malik? You guys know Dean from
Yeah.
who does that? Malik Rose like responded to him like legit.
Yeah. Thanks,
Twitter.
sir. Like Davis and JJ don't know who that is, but it's a former Spurs player.
I know who Malik Rose is.
Okay, but you
I
don't.
never voted,
But
I
you don't know
what
who Raleigh Fingers is. Okay.
I know, but the whole thread was hysterical. Malik Rose was like, Dean made some joke about the Spurs starting five with all these old players, and Malik Rose goes, "What about me?"
And then he thanks Dean for all the help that Dean has given him. Like Dean had no clue.
Yeah, Dean was oblivious. And then Rose said something about, "Can you call me like Chocolate Thunder or something?" And Dean had no idea what to say.
It was so good. Also, I did see on Twitter after we started the show at Injury Expert, Will Carroll said that we've got Drew Dinkmeyer on the line right now. So we have officially been big timed 100%.
Oh man,
Drew's never coming back on FITV ever.
He passed the 10,000 follower mark. So like.
Yeah, and Drew and I used to have like a competition for Twitter followers. It's done. It's done unless I just go buy some.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
So,
we already have enough of that.
Yeah, on that note, guys, we'll talk to you later. Tomorrow we'll be with Evan Silva. Evan Silva with way more followers. Evan Silva is like all of us combined.
followers, Silva. That's what I call him.
Yeah.
Probably all of us combined, plus Drew.
Yeah, plus Drew. So, but he'll be on tomorrow's show with the always enthusiastic Mr. Tuttle 05 and Davis Maddox.
I just realized I have to do that show tomorrow. I'm gonna be running home from the library to do that show tomorrow.
Yeah, bro.
Ugh.
You'll probably be just as prepared as you were for today's show. So, no,
This is
no
legit. I mean,
worries.
finals week. You guys were all in college. You know, finals week it's intolerable.
terrible. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
you don't sleep, and then adding daily fantasy and stuff on top of it is just the worst.
Bless
Yeah,
your
school
heart.
sucks.
All right. Well, that will do it for today's show. Join us tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, on the Insiders TV show.
Go Bills.
Go Pierre Thomas.
Go Nick Toon.